everyone. Welcome to the Mobile Weekly webinar. Today we're going to go over tablet development and some things that we have done to make tablet development easier. The first thing that I'm going to be showing you is called the split view. And the split view is another navigation tool that we've added that is very similar to the tab view. So we're going to take a look at the Road System API samples, which is a project up on GitHub that is an app that we use for testing, and we have basically any new feature that we add or put in is added to the Road System API samples app. And so if we take a look here, it's just your standard Roads app. So we'll go ahead and open that up in TextMate. You can see in the System API samples we have all of these audio, Bluetooth. What we're really looking for is the native bar tests here. And we have our controller and our ERB. So if you notice here, there's one link here that is tab bar using iPad split view, and in the controller the action is set iPad tab bar. So we'll take a look at that here. So the tab bar here is just defined with icons, actions, labels, just like the tab bar or the native bar. The only difference is that when you create the tab bar, you call it the V tab bar type instead of tab bar type. So what that does is it tells you to use the vertical tab bar. If you're on a platform that doesn't have the vertical tab bar, it will default to displaying the tab view. So let's take a look at what this looks like. We'll run this for iPhone. And so one thing you need to pay attention is if you want to run it on iPad, we'll go to our TextMate here and look at our build YAML. Our YAML, the SDK version, we set to iPhone Simulator 3.2. Doing this makes it so that the tab bar so that the simulator comes up and runs the iPhone simulator, or the iPad simulator, rather than the iPhone simulator. So the build here that's running is going to be building us the version that runs on the iPad. And because we have iPad Simulator 3.2 in our build YAML, when the simulator launches, it'll be the iPad simulator instead of our iPhone simulator. So probably a little bit hard to see here. The iPad simulator has two Windows modes. You can have the 50%, or you can have the 100%. And the 100%, you have to scroll the screen to see everything here as well. So we'll open up our System API samples, and you can see in the system samples here, we have all sorts of things that can be run. What we're interested in today is native bar. So we see the native bar test link here. And so we can show no bar, which removes the toolbar here. We can show the toolbar. We can show the regular tab bar, which now you have the 3 tabs across the bottom of the screen. And finally, you can show the tab bar with the split view. So the tab bar split view now shows this interface where you have on the left is your list of tabs. And so selecting the tab, you have the new content within that tab. And so this is a very good UI paradigm for a tablet where you have your navigation on the left and then you have your main viewing area on the right. And so on the left you can work with the tab view, you can do your own HTML, CSS view, and you'll have the split view with the various tabs and content here available. So the Road System API samples, I'm going to show you where it is on GitHub because it is very useful when you want to learn how to do anything with roads. And the URL here is simply github.com/rowmobile/road system API samples. And it's a Git repository that has the entire application here. So if anybody has any question on tab views and the native split view, this is a feature that has just been added to master. It's still under a little bit of refinement. However, it does work. But if anybody has any questions, now is a good time to paste them to the question box. And we're going to start demonstrating our second feature here. This is less of a feature and more of a UI demonstration of how to use various UIs with your application. So we have another application here called Schedule application. And this application is a bit different from your standard Roads app where the UI has been done in Sencha. And Sencha is a UI toolkit for mobile applications that is similar to JQuery, similar to the new jQuery. And it allows you to do a lot of rich UI. So let me take a look here. The rowconfig.txt. If you notice, the start path points to this static HTML page. So this static HTML page is what we have in here for our display. And all it is the HTML, and it loads up with these JavaScript links, which is how Sencha works. Sencha is basically purely JavaScript, and everything is defined with JavaScript, and UI is defined with JavaScript. So what we see is we have the jQuery, the touch framework, and then our various pages that we're going to be displaying. So if we go to our resource, or source here rather, our main index page here is index.js. If you used the XTJS before, this will be very familiar to you. What we've defined here is our schedule home is just going to be a container that has an HTML item in it. And that HTML item is going to just give us a list of times. Our main panel here, we're going to have the home screen here is going to be our main panel, and defining the width and the placement of where the panels are and where the navigation is going to be. And finally, there's the main function that is what sets things off and what happens when it's loaded. The second part is we're going to have a list of contacts. And so if we look at our list of contacts here, we're defining some new UI elements. And we're also defining our model. That is the JavaScript model that it uses to display the contacts here. So you define your model with your fields. Then you define your storage. And so the way we define our storage is we use JSON and AJAX to call to our roads controller. So if you look, we're using the JSON store here. And the JSON store, the model is going to be contact, which is matching our model that we defined here. The first string here, the grouping string, is going to be the first name. And then this proxy section tells it how to connect. And so we're going to connect via AJAX, and here is our URL to our roads controller. And finally, after it's all been defined, it loads the contact information. We also have a function for the contact here, and this basically is what draws them on the screen. The list here we defined as contact list here. And this defines what happens when you click on them. Let's see. Here's where we're defining the list. So we're saying our type is going to be a list. The store is going to be our storage that we set up before, which is the JSON store. The template is how it is displayed in the list. You can see when it's selected there's going to be a pop-up. So this is what displays the pop-up here. It fetches the first name, last name, and position, and then displays that pop-up. You can see here is where we display it. And we're also going to have a drag and drop. So the drag and drop will allow us to place our items on the calendar. And so we say draggable, and revert is true, so it'll slide back if we let go. Our hours, these hours match our CSS that we had here, the IDs. So you see the schedulable 6 a.m., 7 a.m. is going to match our IDs here. And so for each one of them, we're going to say if it's dropped onto this ID, what we're going to do is add this HTML here to that ID, which drops onto our area. So that's how all the JavaScript is laid out. The final portion of this here is in our application. We've defined our contacts here to connect to this render all JSON model. So if you go render and look at our controller here, our controller does it two ways. If you're using row sync, that means that your data has been synced and we've stored it in the contacts model. However, for this example, we're not going to be using row sync, so we're returning the data statically in our model here. So we're building up this array that has the contacts and it has the keys and the values in the contacts. And if we take a look at the bottom here, we just render a string JSON. And that's what our model here is looking for as well. If you look at our contacts model, it's a JSON store, so it's made to pull a JSON AJAX request. And in the bottom of our model here, we're returning a JSON string. And in order to do that, we have to require JSON at the beginning. So now for an actual demonstration of what this UI looks like, we're again going to do rake run iPhone. We have our simulator here again. And so in our simulator, we're going to go ahead and launch our application. And it's a little bit hard to see, so let me bring it up to 100% scale. So now what we have on the left is our list that we defined that pulled the contacts out from the controller. On the right, we have our calendar area that was defined with CSL. And so now when we select these items here, you can see we get the pop-up. And we can select various people here and get the pop-up. Once we've selected it, we can actually now drag this because we defined it as a draggable item onto our calendar here. And so you can see we're dragging and dropping items here. This is also scrollable. So you can see it has a whole lot, so we can scroll. And because we said it was grouping by first name, you can see it's sticking the little letter here of the category as we're going through. We can also scroll quickly using this scroll indicator here. So we can go through the different letters and it'll scroll the letters as we go through here. And so we still have the same API paradigm we had before. We have sort of a navigation on the left And then we have our main content section here on the right. And so that's how you develop for tablets and how to use sort of the Essentia model as well. Uh, if anybody has any questions, they can post it into the questions box right now. We're going to take a couple minutes here. And this actually concludes today's webinar. It was a small demonstration of our native view, our native split view, and how you can accomplish a nice looking JavaScript using using Essentia, using the native code, and you can achieve really great results.